Views expressed by Camaplan podcast guests may not reflect those of Camaplan. Camaplan does not guarantee the accuracy of information provided by guests, nor does it endorse or recommend any individual or organization. Camaplan is not an investment advisor, CPA, realtor, or attorney. You are encouraged to conduct your own due diligence before making investment choices. For any tax, legal, accounting, investment, or other questions, please consult a specialist. Welcome back to the Road to Financial Freedom, where experts share stories and secrets to unlocking financial independence. This podcast is brought to you by Camaplan, a self-directed IRA administrator focused on educating investors on how to grow retirement savings faster through alternative investments. I'm Ricky Trong, Camaplan team member and podcast host. In each episode, we're going to take an in-depth look at the many roads taken to financial freedom and how they differ for each of our guests. Today's guest is an author, entrepreneur, and real estate investor with more than 70 rental units and dozens of house flips under his belt. Henry built his rental portfolio in just 3.5 years, allowing him to achieve his goal of financial freedom. Henry is the newest co-host of the Bigger Pockets podcast and cast member of the newest Bigger Pockets show on the market. Now, to learn more about his journey directly from the source, I'm going to welcome Henry Washington to the show. Hi, Henry. How are you today?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here. As we were saying earlier, before we start recording, I have been following you on social media a little bit, and I just think what you're doing is really fun, really cool. And I'm excited to talk with you today. So why don't we just get started right here? You tell me a little bit where you started from and where you're at now, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so I bought my first rental property about 5 years ago, a little over 4.5 years ago. And I bought it not on a whim, just more out of necessity. To make a really, really long story short, I had a panic attack. Because it's not that I wasn't making enough money. It's that I didn't know what to do with money. I had no financial education. I had a great job. I was making 6 figures, but I spent more money than I made. And so it really didn't matter how much you make. If you spend more than that and you don't have anything, right, then you're digging yourself a hole. I was pretty comfortable living like that, as embarrassing as that is to say. Then I got married, and I quickly learned that my wife was not comfortable living like that. And so I started to realize, just through us starting to grow together as a couple and a family, that I couldn't do the things that she needed me to do. We tried to buy a house, and the lender basically called me and said that I was going to screw up her chances of being able to buy a house if I was on the mortgage, just because my credit was in a terrible place, and I wasn't helping her get approved. And so I couldn't be so I wasn't even involved. Like, I wasn't on the mortgage for the first house we bought, which was pretty embarrassing. And then, we just started talking, like couples do, about our future, and talking about how many kids we would want to have and where we would live and what our dream house would look like, and, where we're going to go on vacations, and, things you're supposed to talk about as a couple and be excited about. And I just remember being terrified having that conversation and trying to act like I was cool, because in the back of my mind, I was like, I can't afford any of that. Like, I don't know how you're going to be able to get the things that you deserve through me. And so, after that conversation one morning, I had a panic attack, just because I knew I was going down a path that wasn't going to get me to where my wife needed me to be. And I was worried that she was going to wake up one day and realize that she didn't like what she signed up for, and I only looked good on paper. And it was a problem. At 3 a.m, I woke up sweating and freaking out. And so I did what anybody would do at 3 a.m, is started to Google, how can I make some extra money? And that's when I started to really see terms like financial freedom and passive income and cash flow and like all these things that they were terms that I'd seen before or heard before, but it never resonated with me. So I never looked into any of it. But now when I'm in this moment where I knew I needed to make a change, I started diving into all these things. And what I learned when I started looking into these strategies was that real estate was a common denominator among all those terms. And I said, well, if real estate can get me all of these things, and am fairly interested in real estate, then that's what I'm going to do. The kind of final thing that solidified that for me was I watched this TED Talk of this kid. He was like 25 and he had 20 something houses. And the whole point of the TED Talk was like how to design your dream life through passive income. And the whole talk was just about developing passive income streams. He used real estate. He did it in a short period of time. And now he controls his time. And I was like, well, if this kid's figured it out, I got to be able to figure it out. Like, if all these people are buying real estate, there's got to be a way for me to do it too. And so I just decided I was going to figure it out, and woke up the next morning, told my wife that we were going to be real estate investors. And she was like, okay, cool. That's awesome. Whatever that means. And then 90 days later, I bought my first rental. So it didn't take me that long to figure out not only how I was going to go about doing it, but like how to start fixing my credit and getting that in the right place, and how to start setting money aside and getting savings. Like, it's more about mindset than it is about actual like execution of steps. Like, sure, the execution is what you need to get the things done. But if you don't have the mindset that you're going to do it no matter what, then you're not going to get there.
Wow. I feel like the first part of your story is so relatable. Like, there's so many people out there with a similar struggle. I know my husband and I, when we bought our first house, it was a really similar situation. I had gotten really badly injured in an accident, and I wasn't able to be on our mortgage because the gap of time between paychecks that was coming in just wasn't suitable for the mortgage company. So we were lucky that we were able to get a mortgage on his, salary alone. So, that really, really resonates with me. The same kind of feeling that you were having entirely, because I was kind of going through the same kind of struggle, and we're actually renting that house out now. And that's awesome. Our first step to, financial freedom, and at least in a small sense. But yeah, I mean, it took you 90 days just to, get your act together basically and buy that home. That's amazing. And how did you feel once you had accomplished that? Were you like, okay, it's time to do more? Or did you take a breath and just reflect on what you did and just be proud of yourself?
No, it was definitely the former and not the latter. So,
okay.
So several things took place over that 90 days before I actually bought the property, right? But once I bought it, to kind of put it in some perspective, I had bad credit. I had $1,000 total in my savings account. So it's not like I had this big chunk of money that I was like, I'll just buy real estate. And then I used all of my money to buy real estate. That wasn't what happened. I didn't have any money. I had no savings. I had $1,000 and I had bad credit. And so what I did was, the same thing I would tell anybody to do in any new venture, real estate, weight loss, fitness, whatever, it doesn't matter, any business. If you want to do something, your first step is you have to decide, truly, it's a decision, decide. The word decide, when you break it down, the suffix of the word is side, like suicide. It means to kill off. It means there's no other option. You're doing it, right? You do it or you do it. It's plan A. There's no plan B, right? And you have to truly make the decision. You have to decide in your heart and in your mind. And once you've done that and you say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to figure it out no matter what, then how you do it will start to reveal itself. And I think too many times we want to figure out all the steps for the how first, and then we want to evaluate that and say, okay, yes, I want to do this thing. That's not the way it works. That's not the way you're going to get to wealth or financial freedom. It's going to take some risk and some sacrifice. There's no path to financial freedom that doesn't involve some level of risk and sacrifice. And so you've got to decide early on that you're willing to take on those things no matter what, before you figure out exactly how you're going to get there. It's the decision that leads you to the how, not the how that leads you to the decision. So once I said, all right, I'm doing this, it's going to work or it's going to work. And the first step I did, I immersed myself in real estate investment information: podcasts, books, audiobooks, and communities. Like, there wasn't a moment where I wasn't like taking in something that was teaching me about the thing that I was going to do. And the most important part was the community. So, like, if you don't know how to do something, the best way to learn is to get yourself around a bunch of people who are doing it and doing it successfully. Because human nature is going to take over. And human nature says you are the sum parts of the closest people around you. It doesn't matter what it is. What you hang around, you start to become that thing. You start to take on the characteristics of those people. It also sets your boundaries in your mind of what you believe is achievable, right? Like, if I tell somebody who spends every day of their life around real estate investors that they're going to buy real estate, they're going to believe me. But if I tell somebody who spends every day of their life around people who rent and never want to buy real estate that they're going to buy real estate, they may not believe me. They may not believe it's possible, when both people can do the same thing if they want to. You know, I met a guy who bought his very first real estate deal was a 20 some odd unit apartment building, right? That's the very first thing he did. When we talked to him, we said, well, why was that your first deal? Most people start smaller. He's like, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that. Everybody I was around owned apartment buildings. And so that's just what happened, right? Like, so who you choose to be around lets you know who you're going to be and shows you how to do the things that you want to do. And so just because you don't think it's possible or you can't do something, once you surround yourself with people who are doing it, those limitations start to go away. So if you want to do something, decide you're going to do it wholeheartedly. Surround yourself with people who are doing it consistently. Don't just show up to one meeting here or there. Every chance you have, you get in the room with people who are consistently doing it. Make them your new circle. And then the other thing I did at a really, really high level was I just told everybody I was an investor, because I just believe that what you give in this world is what you get. And if I didn't believe I was an investor, nobody else was going to believe it. And so I just started telling people that's what I was before I had ever done a deal. Not because I wanted to lie to people. To me, it wasn't lying. I was that thing. That's who I was now, even though I hadn't done a deal. And that's how I bought my first deal. So that was a really long way of getting to the fact that in that 90 days, I did all these things, which led me to my first deal, which I found because I told people I was an investor. Somebody heard that, called me, said, hey, I've got this house. I'm in a tough situation. I have to sell it. If you can close on it in 30 days, I'll let you have it for this price. It was like $115,000, but it was worth like $160,000. He was like, I got to get rid of it. I need the money from this to go buy this other property that I have to buy for my church. So can you buy it in 30 days? And because I had decided I was going to figure out how to do this, I told him yes, even though I had no clue how to actually buy that property. I had no clue where the money was going to come from to buy that property. But I didn't let me not knowing those things stop me from saying, yes, I'm going to buy this property. Just because I didn't know how to buy it didn't mean I wasn't going to do it. And so, yes, I bought that property. I didn't have any money. And because I built that network of investors that I was consistently around on a day-to-day basis, when I didn't know how to do a thing, I just went to them and said, hey, I've got a buddy. He's got to sell this house. He's going to sell it to me for this price. It seems like a great deal. How the heck do I find the money to do this? Right. And so ended up going to a bank and I just picked a bank because it was close to my work. Like there was no strategery involved. And like, I just went to this bank that was close to my job and I walked in there with the contract in my hand and I said, I want to buy this piece of property. Can somebody help me? And they said, sure, we can help you. That's a great deal. We'd love to finance that. You're just going to have to bring a 15% down payment. Do you have that? And I was like, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I got it. I didn't have any of that. But I didn't, again, I decided I was going to figure this out. And so once I knew what I needed from a down payment, that's when I went to my investor friends and said, how the heck do I get the money to buy this deal? How are you guys doing this? And so that led me to learning about different strategies. And the strategy that I used for the down payment on this one was a 401k loan. So somebody was like, hey, if you borrow against your 401k, you'll pay the money back to yourself with interest. Your employer will automatically deduct it, but it's your money, so you get the interest. And if you use that to buy a cash flowing asset, technically the money you make pays back what you're borrowing, right, with interest. And so you can use that to buy a property. And I was like, that's amazing. Now I just have to figure out how to find a 401k. and,
Yes.
and, and, and luckily my wife had one and was more than willing to let us borrow the money to do that. And that's how we found the down payment to buy the property. A bank financed
Wow.
85%, the 401k financed the rest. The cash flow paid us. The cash flow paid for the house, all the expenses with the house, paid the 401k loan, and paid us money every month.
Wow.
And so to answer the really, really long answer to your question is, once that happened, once I had that property, to go from a panic attack, and 90 days later, I own a cash flowing asset that's paying for itself and paying me and paying back the loan I used to borrow it. And then the bank called me and said, hey, that was a really great deal. We would love to finance more of those if you can go get some more. So we'd like to give you a line of credit against the equity that you have in that property so that you have some cash to go buy more deals. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And so because I had equity in this property, it was worth about 160. I paid 115. I put 15% down. I was all in for under 100,000. So they gave me, I had access to about, I don't know, it was like 30 grand, a little under 30 grand that I now could go use to buy more properties. And when you go from a panic attack to 90 days later owning an asset, and then the bank says, here's 30 grand to go do more, that is mind blowing. I knew I had found the way to not just build some extra income, but now once I had that happen, I was like, oh no, my goals are too small. This isn't how I'm just going to make some extra money. This is how I'm going to retire my wife. This is how we're going to live the life of our dreams. And so, yes, it was not let's just be happy for what we did. It was, let's 10x all the goals we had. I didn't know what was possible until I did this deal. And now I know that I can do so much more, and I can put myself on a path to not even having to work if I don't want to, versus just making some extra money. So there's your very long-winded answer.
That's amazing. At first I was like, oh, okay, this is a life coach. He's not really just everything that he claims he is. He's also a life coach. Cause I love that you started, telling me your process, and basically you don't hear that. You don't hear the, learn what to do, but them decide before that. You don't ever hear that. And that's just so elating, because it's wow, that I really need to get in that mindset to be able to do what I want to do. Because if you're not in the mindset, you're not all in. That's right. And you won't succeed. So you'll quit
when it gets hard.
Yeah. And I mean, I've just seen that over the years with people I know around me, someone that wants to be an artist, right? And they do 2 drawings and it doesn't succeed and they just give up. They're not in that mindset. And wow, that's just crazy. And the 401k loan, I can totally attest to that. That was my previous job. I worked in 401k specifically. So that was awesome what you took advantage of there, because that's a really underused option that a lot of people have, and they don't realize that they can do that, especially with, their company offers them a 401k, and sometimes they don't even take advantage of it at all.
Right. I was that person.
Yeah. So if anything came out of that, invest in your 401k and use it later for financial freedom purposes. Amen. That's amazing. I love that. Well, I know you do have different strategies of what you use. And it sounds like to me, your strategy for the most part is using other people's money instead of using specifically yours. Is that correct?
100%.
And do you have any tips or tricks that someone besides the 401k that people could use? Maybe give us a sneak peek. I know that you do offer classes on things like this as well. So is there any kind of tips that you would let a newer investor or a newer person that's interested into real estate understand that, I only have $1,000 in my bank account, but this can still be a reality like it was for you?
Yeah. Financial freedom. The majority of the paths to financial freedom aren't taught traditionally to the masses, right? You've got to go to some expert of some kind. And that's new. People experts in these financial freedom paths teaching what they know is fairly new over the past 5 years to have access to it so easily. Right. And so take advantage of that. So what I didn't know, because what they don't teach you, typically people know, If I want to get a loan to buy a property, then I have to go get a conventional or an FHA loan, right? Everybody knows about those things.
Mhm.
Those are just two loan products. That's not all the loan products. There are so many different loan products at so many different types of institutions. And I use commercial loans to buy residential property from small local banks. That's the way I do it. And the small local banks not only have loan products that are designed for people who want to invest in real estate, for you to be able to buy a property and you don't have to put 25% down like you do with a conventional. Oftentimes it's just 15%. It'll be typically they'll, the boilerplate answer is they want 15 to 20%, but a lot of them do 15. Some will do less. And that can change. Whereas with like a conventional or an FHA, it's never going to change. Those rules are what those rules are, right? Those are government backed types of loans. And typically the banks that issue them turn around and sell those loans. And so those loans, like the people who have those loans have to fit in this box, right? So that they can turn around and sell that loan to somebody, so that whoever they're selling that loan to understands they're getting a viable product. Like that, all the people who are in this product fit in this box, and then I know what I'm buying. Whereas small local banks, they're oftentimes called portfolio lenders. And they're called portfolio lenders, not because they'll lend on your portfolio of homes. They will, but that's not what it means. It means they keep their loans in their in-house portfolio. They don't sell those loans. And so since they keep them, they are more flexible on who can fit in their box. Don't get me wrong. They have a box that they want people to fit into. But if you're on the edge or slightly close to the edge, they can make exceptions. They can change some rules for certain people, for certain types of deals. And so the better relationship you build with that bank, the more trust they have in you, the more likely they are to bend rules for you or to change rules. Wow. Right. And I'm not saying they're doing anything illegal. It's not that. They're abiding by all the laws. They just don't have to. They're not giving you some government-backed product that has to meet this criteria. They're giving you their own product. Right. And so they can do what they want to some degree. And so that's the reason the bank called me and said, hey, we'll give you more money off a line of credit if you're going to bring us more deals. Right. And when I started to piece it together, what I learned was I brought them a small local bank, in order for them to stay relevant and make money, they need two things. They need deposits, which means they need people to open bank accounts there. And then they need those people to put money in them. And then they need to loan money and make money off that money. And they typically are going to loan money to small businesses, small local businesses, because they're a small local bank. But what we know about most small businesses is they fail within the first 5 years, which makes those loans risky, right? If a bank goes and loans to a guy who's going to start a restaurant, right, and gives them a big loan to get started, they're going to go buy restaurant equipment and all these things. They're probably going to rent a space. They probably won't buy a space for their restaurant. They'll probably rent a space. They'll buy all this equipment. They have staff they're going to hire. And then if it doesn't go well, the bank's going to take back what they can. But all they usually end up with is like restaurant equipment that they take back that they have to sell for pennies on the dollar, and then they don't recoup what they lent. But if you come along and say, well, I need you to lend me, $115,000 on a house that's worth 160. If I don't pay my mortgage and they have to foreclose and take that property back, well, now they have a house that's worth 160. Yeah. But they're only 116,000 in. If they sell it, even at a discount for 120 or 130, they make way more money on the sale of that property than they ever will on the interest I'm paying them month over month. So it's a super less risky investment to lend to real estate investors. That's why it's easier for you to go and get a loan to buy a property as an investment than it is for you to go and get a loan to start a business, because it's way less risky for them. And so if you can find a bank who is interested in what you're doing, show them that you can find good deals and buy those good deals and pay your mortgage note on time, they will want to continue to lend you money, and they will be willing to work with you on rates and terms and things in order for that to happen. And so I typically don't. I just closed on a house today
Oh, wow.
before this interview. I walked in with a pen, I signed my papers, and I left. I brought no money. That's
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. That's really amazing information. I've never heard that. That's really great information for, anyone to really know. Cause I mean, you sometimes go to your local bank just because you have a paycheck and you need to cash it, or you
Mhm.
need, just random small things, but you don't really think of them as someone that you can borrow from. Cause yeah, I mean, that investment for them it's of course an perfect ideal situation that,
Yep.
yeah, if they have to foreclose on the home or whatever, they're getting a better end of the deal. So
That's right.
why wouldn't they trust you? That's wow. I love that information. I am telling my husband as soon as I go home today, because that is going to be big news to him. That's awesome. So you mentioned financial freedom a lot.
Mhm.
What does that mean to you in not so much the broad sense of time freedom, but what does it mean to you like in your personal life? Do you have any connections with it that way?
Yeah. I mean, for me, the goal, like what got me started in all this, was wanting to be able to take care of my family, wanting to be able to provide my life with the things I felt like she deserves. We now have 2 kids. And so,
Mm.
I'm fortunate enough, my kids are small. And so I'm fortunate enough that, my kids are never going to know daddy that had to get up and go to work every day. Right. So financial freedom for me is less about the money and more about just being able to be there whenever I want to be there. Right. It's also about being my children being able to do what they're called to do, regardless of what they feel like they have to do to make money. I want them to be able to be who they're meant to be in this world and not have to worry about, well, I have to go do this job because I have to go make this money. And then I've got to take care of all my life's expenses. And then I can maybe try to squeeze in the thing that I think I'm supposed to do. I just want them, I don't want them to have to worry about that. And, some people call that spoiled or, trust fund kids and you can call any of that all you want to. I think we need to change the narrative around some of those things. We're supposed to want more for our kids than we want for ourselves, right? My parents sacrificed a ton so that I could live a great life, and I was able to go to college because it was ingrained in me that that was the opportunity that I was going to have because of how hard my parents worked. And so I want to be able to give my kid that and more. And I want her to give her kids that and more. That's what freedom means to me.
That's beautiful. I really like that because you don't want your kids to feel the struggle like you did coming into your marriage. And I can totally understand that. I can relate on so many levels with that. And I'm sure a lot of our audience can as well. And financial freedom, it means so many different things to so many people, but there's always that one factor that it is like a security and a comfort for them, the family generations to come. So I think you really understand what family means to you and also
Mhm.
what financial freedom means to you. And that's beautiful.
We're all put on this planet to do something. We all have a purpose. And financial freedom allows you to focus on fulfilling that purpose more than focusing on just making your ends meet. So it's important, not for you, it's important for what you're here to do. And I believe we're all here to impact other people in some way. It's not about us. And so I feel like having the financial freedom benefits who you're supposed to impact more than it benefits yourself. So
Wow.
that's what it's about.
Wow. That's that is very deep. And I appreciate that. I feel you're so interesting to speak with. You have so many great stories and you're just very passionate about what you do. So, as I stated earlier, you have 70 rentals under your belt now at this time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, is there something that you're doing now that you wish you knew in that 90-day time frame before you bought that first house?
Well, hindsight's 2020.
Of course.
So the real estate market's gone crazy over the past 2 years. So
Sure.
I wish I'd have bought every single thing I ever looked at, I ever laid eyes on when I started investing, because everything's appreciated like tenfold. So other than that, no, I don't do anything different now than I did before. The strategy works in any market, up or down, hot or cold. What I do works in any market. Now, my buy box expands and shrinks based on what the market's doing. When the market's super hot and everything's appreciating and everything's selling like hotcakes, then my buy box expands. I can offer more for properties because I know I'm going to get that appreciation. I know if I wait long enough, it's going to be able to sell for more. Right now, that buy box is shrinking. I'm being a little tighter on what I'm willing to offer for a property because it's uncertain what the market's doing right now. That doesn't mean I'm not buying. It just means I'm being a little more strict on my numbers, and I won't pay what I would have paid, even 6 months ago for certain properties, but I'm still buying. Nothing's changing.
Yeah, I mean, you just bought something earlier today.
Yeah,
I mean, good for you. That's amazing. So you have a method that you're comfortable with and you stick to it because it doesn't really make much of a difference depending on the market, things like that. It's just your own personal preference of how much you want to put out there, how much you want to get. So, I mean, that makes total sense. And especially if you found something that works for you, stick with it. Because why would you change something if it's not broken?
That's right.
I get that. I love that. Henry, so tell us a little bit about what you do. If you have clientele or do you teach these kinds of things to people? Tell us a little bit about all that. Give us your handles, your Instagrams, things like that.
Yeah. So yes, I do teach people how to invest in real estate, and I do that on a couple of levels. I also do that a little different. To go back to the story about when I bought that first property, what did I do? Like, what did it make me feel? So yes, we wanted to go bigger once we bought that first property. I also, after I bought that first property, I was kind of overcome with this feeling of responsibility after I bought it, because I had a panic attack only 90 days before that about money and how to take care of my family. And then 90 days after that, I owned this property. I figured out, like, I knew this was the ticket. This was going to change my life forever. I had just changed my life in 90 days. And I became overwhelmed with this urge and this responsibility to share this with as many people as I could, to tell it to whoever would listen, because it's not taught in schools. It's not taught, and especially people that look like me. There's a higher chance that we won't have someone in our family that's done something like this before, that's built generational wealth. And so the access to the information is limited. And so that's when I started my social media, because I was like, I just need to share this with people. I'll just document it on social media. And that way, at least people can see it. I had no idea that my social media would grow. I was like, I'll just tell the 200 people that follow me on Instagram that this is cool stuff. And I just wanted to share it. And so as my social media influence has grown, I've tried to share it with people within the same vein. So what I learned through that journey is that if the information is free, no one cares, right? They don't do anything with it. 90%, 95% of the people who consume your free information will do absolutely nothing with it. If you want people to do something with it, you have to assign a value to it. If there's a value assigned to it, the likelihood that they do something with it increases. But I still don't want to price out people who look like me, people who didn't have a dime like me when I started, right? Like, I don't want people who have to go to work with their arms, legs, and backs, right? And make not a great wage. If you got to go to work and work hard physically and make, $1,000 every 2 weeks, I don't want you worried about giving me 500 of that for access to this information. And so I sell courses. I have 3 courses, but I have a course on the bank financing we talked about. So how to finance deals with little to no money using small banks, right? That's a course most people would sell anywhere between $200 and $500. I sell mine for $40, right? And then I have a course on how to find great deals, because those are the 2 things that you need to be a successful real estate investor. You need to find great undervalued deals, and then you need to be able to buy those deals without taking all of your dollars. If you can solve both those problems, you can grow your business as fast as you want to, because those are the two huge roadblocks for people. And so I created the courses for those. Each of them are only $40. It's for what you get information wise. I mean, it's super inexpensive. There's a reason behind that. I don't want to price people out of that information. And then if you want more help, right, more hands-on experience and more mentor type experience, then I do have a coaching program, which costs substantially more than the $40 courses do, but you're getting my personal help and guiding you down your real estate journey. But even when you compare what I charge for a mentorship program versus what other people charge, it's still a fraction of that. And so the links to all of those things can be found at my link in my bio on my Instagram. I'm at the Henry Washington on Instagram. And then there's a link in my bio. It's my link tree. I think my link tree is like linktr.ee/Independence Realty Group. And then it'll take you to my link tree. Or you can just find it at the link in my Instagram bio. I'm at the Henry Washington on Instagram. You can get the courses there. You can sign up to apply for my mentorship there. And then I've got a book that you can get on my website, henrywashington.com. So those are the best places to reach me and get access to this information.
That's awesome. And I really do appreciate that your pricing is, obtainable for a lot of people that are in different situations so that they can have that option to, follow what you did. We know it's a successful plan. We know it works. I mean, you went from having $1,000 in your bank account. Now you own 70 rentals or more. And you just keep signing papers to get that. So, I mean, it's definitely a proven course. You're the one that proved it yourself. So I love that. I really appreciate how down to earth you are. And you're just a kind soul. I feel like you really have a lot of passion for what you do. And, you just want to share some knowledge with people. So I appreciate you being here today on the podcast. Is there any advice or any final words that you'd like to give to our audience, to keep them motivated or, just to pass down some wisdom?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the importance of decision. You have to truly decide. Everybody says they want to do something, but what they're really saying is, yeah, I want to try it out. I'll give it a go, right? We'll see how it goes, right? All those things equal, you're going to see how it goes. And what you're doing is you're just telling your brain to try it until it gets hard, until it can't figure out what to do next. And then you've already told your brain you were just trying it. So your brain is not trying to figure out how to go past that wall because you tried it. Your brain did what you told it to do. You tried it. But when you decide and you say, no matter what, I'm doing this, it's going to work or it's going to work. You've now told your brain to solve problems, to try to get you around obstacles because you told it, we're doing this. And so when things get difficult, your first inclination isn't to quit. Your first inclination is to figure out how to get around that obstacle. So decision is vitally important. And the only difference between you and somebody who's super successful at the thing you want to do, it's not that they're smarter than you or that they had a bunch more money than you or that, they had some super secret into this thing that you didn't have. The only difference is when it got hard, they didn't quit. They kept going. And so keep going.
Well, you heard it from him directly from the source, Henry Washington. Make a decision, keep on going. I just want to say thank you so much to our sponsor at Camaplan today. And of course, Henry Washington for being on the show today. Please make sure to check out his free book at henrywashington.com and his Instagram at @thehenrywashington. Of course, all the links will be in the description and the show notes below. If you do have any questions about self-directed IRAs, please feel free to visit camaplan.com where you can request a consult with an expert, view our media library of webinars and podcasts, and you can open an account today. So thank you for listening, and remember to like, follow, and share our podcast, The Road to Financial Freedom, to continue with us on this journey on the path to finding success. Thank you again, Henry. You have a great day.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Bye.